it's Jen, and welcome to So Much Yarn, a podcast about my adventures and often misadventures in quilting, sewing, and knitting. For those of you who are returning, it is wonderful to have you back. And for those of you who are checking me out for the first time, it is wonderful to have you here. Well, it is another warm day here. Though truthfully, the last time we were together, it was a cold, snowy day. But today is a warm day for December. Usually we are in blankets of snow, and right now it is plus degrees outside, which is, I don't think I've ever seen that here before, but it is a nice, beautiful, warm day today. My family and I have been doing a little errands this morning, and this evening we are heading over to our local zoo's zoo lights, which is a tradition of ours, and we are very excited about it. Well, we are done another month of school. In fact, we are 10 days, school days, away from Christmas break, and let me tell you, I am counting down the days. I have truthfully been counting down the days since after Remembrance Day, and it especially feels like the countdown is on this year. For this last week, we have been online and live. So as I mentioned in my first adventure, I'm a middle school teacher, so I teach grades 6 to 9. So my grade 6s are still in the building, but my grades 7 through 9 are at home. So I'm kind of back and forth from teaching real life people in person to real life people online on a computer via Zoom, everybody looking like the Brady Bunch on the screens. But we've still been able to connect and keep going. My kids have been amazing at it, which is awesome. Well, we're going to jump right into today, and I'm going to start out with quilting. So the baby blanket that I had shown you last time, the Baby Bricks by Amy Smart, has been sent to its new little owner, who came quite a few days late, but it is now safely with him. Though, what a misadventure that was. I unfortunately don't have pictures because truthfully, I was so distraught that I didn't actually want to look at it. And the only reason that I did finish it and it didn't go into a timeout was because it needed to be done for this little fellow. And the misadventure was I had a plan of how I was going to quilt it. I had it basted, I had it all ready to go, and how I was going to quilt it was this kind of same way. So it's these horizontal wavy lines using a walking foot. So the fabric from both bottom and top are evenly pulled. And I have done this technique hundreds of times, but I don't know if I just didn't baste it well enough, which means you're pinning all of the layers together, the back, the batting, and the top together, and I didn't pin it well enough, but it slid. It slid to the point where if I was going to make it work, I was going to have to cut off about 6 inches, which was an entire row, and I wasn't about. So then it would be a really skinny little baby quilt, and I wasn't about to do that. So 2.5 hours, I took my trusty best friend known as my seam ripper, and I carefully ripped out almost 3/4 of the quilting to try to fix it. And that was a mess. It was a mess everywhere it possibly could be. And then I tried straight line quilting in a vertical pattern and then horizontal pattern. And I didn't like the look of it. So another hour, seam ripping it out. Honest to goodness, it was a nightmare. So finally I just said, okay, just forget it, Jen. We are going to do free motion quilting, which is basically where you lower the feed dogs. So those are the things that feed your fabric in. You put a special foot in, and basically you move your fabric around and create these crazy designs. And I have done that with tons of quilts. But for whatever reason, I have been hesitant to do it with my newest machine. It's a beautiful machine. It's really made for free motion quilting, but I haven't quite got the speed of everything right. So my stitches are uneven and I've broken needles and I've had needles fly at me. And so I'm hesitant to do it. So I went over to a different style of quilting for a while. Well, I had no other options. It was either I get a new backing piece that was big enough that if it shifted, who cared? Or I figure out free motion quilting. So that's what I did. So I found a piece of batting that was just a little piece that wasn't going to really work with anything except a wall hanging kind of mini quilt. I found an ugly piece of brown, in my opinion. I flipped it inside out because it was very, very busy. And I practiced my free motion quilting, which is these kinds of designs. And so I moved all over. I played with different speeds. I played with different needles. I played with different thread on the back and thread on the front. I played with everything imaginable until I hit the sweet spot. And then I was gold. And so I free motioned basically just a meandering pattern all over it. And I was actually really happy with it in the end. And it went to the young fellow a few weeks ago, in fact. I also finished my Yellow Brick Road quilt, which is by Atkinson Design. And I am the worst friend ever because it took me forever to finish it. But I finally did, and I finally gifted it to her. And again, I free motion quilted it because I had my confidence up. I knew what I had to do. And so I went with it. And again, incredibly, incredibly happy with how it turned out. So a misadventure turning into a great end product. So really happy about that. And perhaps maybe I'll just get over it. Well, my daughter's teacher is also having a baby coming up, and we thought it would be nice for her to have a little quilt. So I ended up thinking, you know what? I really loved the baby bricks quilting pattern. So I decided that I was going to make it again for her. So I didn't know what fabric I was going to use, but I ended up having a kit that I had bought quite a few years ago with a friend of mine at one of the quilt festivals. And I pulled it out a couple of months ago, and I thought, why did I buy this in the end? The colors were great, but the way that it worked together just wasn't my taste anymore. So I ended up ripping that kit apart, and instead I'm going to repurpose it. So this is the palette that I'm working with. So that is it. So it's kind of tealy blues, some lime greens, blacks, some dark kind of teals. And then I'm going to pair it with this really great white and lime green polka dot, which is going to be kind of my background color. And so I'm going to get started on that one really, really soon. The other thing that I am itching to try is a pattern that I saw, I think last year. It came out last year and quite a few people decided to do it. And I got the pattern right away from my favorite quilt store, which is Out of Hand. But I held on to it. And then this year I saw it back on Instagram and I thought, nope, that's it. We're doing it. And so it is this one right here, and it is called Snowflake. And it is by Modern Handcraft. That is the distributor of this. And what's really cool about this pattern is that, I hope that works for you folks, is that it can be a solid background and then the beautiful snowflake, a tri-colored background, and then the snowflake, or pardon me, 4-color background in the snowflake, or a scrappy background and then the snowflake. So that's what I ended up doing, or am going to do. I have this wonderful set of blue fabrics right in here. Again, a kit that I bought 10 years ago, really, and knew I wanted to make a quilt out of it, but held on to it. Forget it. Let's just make it. And so I picked up another fat quarter, which is in that grunge by Basic Grey, which I talked about last time. And so that's going to be my blue palette. That's going to be my scrappy background. Then I found some great white fabrics, and these are tone on tone. So it's white with a white design, so you can't really even see it. But I have some white on white fabric, and that's going to be a kind of scrappy snowflake. And then I got this awesome sparkly, Ella picked it out actually, my Ella, sparkly background, which is going to be the binding. So I am going to cut into that pretty shortly because I am so excited to get that one started. I've really been feeling lately that I just want to come down to my sewing room and quilt and sew, which I haven't for a really long time, especially when we were in lockdown through March through June, because this ended up being my virtual classroom. So it was really hard to be down here and not work and want to actually craft. Well, let's get into some toques. Okay, so now for the Toquepalooza Toque Roundup. Toquepalooza started on October 1st and it went to November 30th and was hosted by Ocean Loops, also known as Lali. And Ocean Loops, you can find her on Instagram and on Ravelry by that name. And she hosted an amazing knit along for those 2 months where you were encouraged to make toques. And for those of you who are not sure, a toque is a winter hat. In the States, I think it's called a beanie, but in Canada, we call it a toque. So it's a winter hat. And because we honestly, where I live, it is winter. This is the oddest winter so far, but usually we are in snow from about the mid-October until sometime in March. We wear toques all the time. So I love Toquepalooza. Last year I participated in it. Last year I made 14 toques. This year I'm a little shy of that total and only managed to finish 13. But still, I love every minute of it. So if you'll bear with me, I am going to share with you my toques. And if you don't mind, I'm going to look off to my side a little bit just to make sure I get all of my info right. So the first one I started with is one I thought it would only be fitting to make the Toquepalooza beanie. And this was a pattern that was designed by Lali herself, Ocean Loops. And it was designed to use the Wool Barons yarn, which was SOB, which is stripes on bulky. And here it is. So this is stripes on bulky, and the color is, hey, you looking at me? Now, I have talked about and mentioned, let me rephrase that. I have mentioned the Wool Baron a few times, and I have neglected to talk about how amazing she is. Her yarn is incredible. She is an amazing self-striping dyer here in Canada, actually not very far from where I live. She has some amazing colorways on stripe in like self-striping. She does this, one of my favorites is the ugly sweater party, which is awesome. And she has done beautiful ones in sock and in sock weight. And then her latest is in this bulky. And so I have done a couple of these myself. Now, truthfully, I need a pom-pom for this, but I am trying to find the perfect one. What I would like to find is one kind of in this gold-y color. Now, the Wool Barons yarn is beautiful to work with. It is squishy, it is wonderful, and she is an incredibly wonderful and nice and kind person. And I really, really do, I love supporting her. Truthfully, I have a package in the mail coming from her. I jumped at the opportunity to purchase one of her Christmas striped colorways. Don't tell Nate. And I cannot wait for it to come. That was my first one. The second one that I did is one called the Leni hat by Isabell Kramer. So I hope that comes through really well. This is a free pattern on Ravelry. It has a really great detail. I hope, again, really great detail on it. It's got these trees that are there. And this is knit in, I knit this in Cascade Heritage Solid, which is their 75/25 in the teal. And then I had some knit picks Aloft in a tealy color as well, and put that together. And this is going to be my daughter's teacher's Christmas present for this year. And I even did the pom-pom in mohair and the sock weight too. And I am going to, oh, this also, what's really cool about this, I've never done this before. It has the ribbing that you do. So you do an extra long bit of ribbing, and then you fold it over, and then you end up stitching it together, which is really, really cool. So it makes a nice kind of extra warmth on your ears. I'm going to make another one of these. I have some beautiful plum colored yarn by the Wool Baron, you guessed it. And I cannot wait to make one of these. I thought it was going to be a different hat, but once I made this one, I thought, nope, that's the yarn that it needs to be in, and that's what I will do. So eventually I will get to that one. So that was my second hat. Well, as I mentioned, my daughter's teacher is having a little baby this year. And what fun to make little babies' hats. So one of the first ones I did was the Beloved Bonnet by Tin Can Knits, and it is a great pattern. Tin Can knit patterns are wonderful because they go from baby size to adult size. In fact, I have a friend who saw it, and he is a grown man and said he wanted one too. So this is the Beloved Bonnet by Tin Can Knits. It's in Sweet Georgia Superwash DK in the color Windswept. And let me just bear with me for 1 second, folks. La, la, la. So there's just kind of, this is often how it is showcased. So that is it there. But truthfully, one of the lovely participants in Toquepalooza did this little hat, and I fell in love with it. And it is called the Albert's Pilot Hat, and it's by Petitknits. Oh, there. Isn't that cute? So this one I knit in Estelle DK. There we go, Estelle DK. And the pom-pom is some leftover Madeline Tosh DK that I had in the glazed pecan colorway. And the button is just something that I had in my button jar through there. Now this was a really interesting construction. I'm not going to give very much away because it's a paid for pattern. But most toques that I've ever worked with start at the bottom and go up. This one starts at the top and goes down. And I'm going to be truthful, I had a little bit of trouble with that. Trying to get the start of it going, but once I did, it was a great little knit, and it's a cute little hat, and I really look forward to seeing the new fellow in it. This was the 6 to 9 month size, and I truthfully made it and thought, oh my goodness, that's giant. So I was really glad I had the Beloved Bonnet just in case, which was the newborn size, just in case he can't fit in it right away. Well, then I started the Held Together hat by Lindsay Fowler of Lost and Found. And this was my cast on after the debacle with my quilting. Is I gave it a rest and I grabbed yarn and I cast something on instead. So this is the finished product of that. And it is, like it says, is a held together. It's supposed to be a fingering weight yarn held together with a fingering weight yarn, except I didn't read the label properly, and I ended up holding together the kind of whitey color, which is an Ancient Arts. It's in their Passion 8 Sport, and it's Storm Cloud. I think I mislabeled that last time as Blue Jay, but I went back through my receipts because I lost the ball band and found that it was actually called Storm Cloud. So I held that together with Cascade Heritage Solid in the lapis, and then I held the lapis together with Kale, moving into Passion Flower, and then back in. So that is this. Now I would make this one again, but I would add another couple of inches. So I ended up knitting to the length, the length that it said. But when I try it on, it's kind of more of like a snug beanie for me, because I like to wear my hats kind of more around my ears, rather than kind of up here. And so what I would end up doing is I would end up adding probably 2 inches just to give me a little bit more of a slouch to it. But again, super warm. I could probably wear it like this without it folded over, but I really like the brim rope folded up, so I'm just going to knit it again at another time and add a couple of inches to it. Okay, number 6. Number 6 is an Espace Tricot, and I apologize if that came off the tongue bizarre. And this is their pattern called Pull the Wool Over. And here it is there. And it is in Hedgehog Fibres, their Merino Aran in the color Oracle. And I had this really awesome purple pom-pom and thought that it deserved to be together. So that's just it was a really quick, it was my staff meeting knit actually. So every time we had a staff meeting, I would take this out and knit around and around and around. Kept me busy. So that was that one. Then I went into the Mountain Mama by Nicole Clark. So there it is here. Now this is in Hugh Loco's Merino Bulky in her Girls Talk, and then her mohair lace in Infatuation. So it is this kind of brilliant, moody purple, green, gray. And then I hit one of my local yarn store Stash Lounge and found this awesome purple pom-pom to go with it. And so this again, great pattern. I don't love twisted rib, but it ended up being really, really pretty on this hat. Just how kind of thick the stitches were. So really great little pattern, straightforward, simple to knit, and again, super cozy. So for when the days we get that minus like 40, 39, 40, well, that doesn't happen very often. It has to have a wind chill to do that. But we did have in 2019, we did have the polar vortex. So it could happen, and I would be prepared with my Mountain Mama. Which then led me to taking out some of my knit vent patterns. So I've participated in knit vent for the last couple of years, few years in fact, which is a wonderful event that happens in November. And it's hosted by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. And she puts out 5 or 6 patterns in the month of November on Thursdays, usually around a beautiful theme. So this year, in 2018, there we go, 2018, that's the easiest. She put out this one, and it is called How Quiet. How Quiet, and I knit it in Madeline Tosh DK, a color called Moon Glow, and it is a really hard color to describe. It's kind of this really pale blue, but with a gray undertone to it. And it was a really fun pattern. a lot of ribbing. And I don't love ribbing, which is funny because I did the Held Together hat, which was all ribbing, kind of ribbing stitches. But this felt like a lot of ribbing to me. So I was really glad when I got into this beautiful kind of stitch pattern, which I had to do twice because I completely messed up the direction my needle needed to go for one of the stitches, and the pattern then didn't show. So I ended up taking it back to the ribbing and then starting again. But it's a great hat. Her patterns are wonderful. I always knit the smaller size of that, and then it's a really nice snug fit for me. Then I thought, you know what, let's get some color work going. Some color work. And one of the hats that I had actually made last year, just on a whim during the summer, was the Die Pyramid by Emily Green. So there it is there, the Die Pyramid by Emily Green. And I knit this in Red Fox Fibres, her Blackstone DK. And I'm really sad to report that she is no longer dyeing, which is really too bad. She had some beautiful, beautiful yarn as well. And this is in Rig Street, and Rig Street is the goldy color. And then Rig Street is the goldy color, sorry. And then Alberta Gold is the black, because Alberta is kind of known for its oil. And this is a great color work hat. I had a great time working on this again. And then I took my pom-pom maker out. And every time I make pom-poms, I end up honestly trimming them to the high heavens. Even as I look at it now, I think I could trim it more. But then I'll end up with no pom-pom at all. So forget it. Forget it. Which, oh my goodness, I'm missing a hat. Can you believe that? Okay, let's go for it then. Somewhere in this original mix here, before I got to this one, I ended up making 14 hats, folks. Holy Hannah. All right, well, here we go. This, this one is the homebody hat. I shared it with you guys last time we were together. This is the homebody hat. Again, this is Helen Stewart. And this is Knit Vent. This is 2019's Knit Vent. And this is, again, in the wonderful Wool Baron yard. This is her EBS base, which is 100% 17 micron superwash merino. This is her DK base. And EBS stands for Everything But Socks. I mean, just the names are so fun with Louise, like, honestly. And this is, I would say this is kind of a creamy taupe color with beautiful speckles of gold and deep kind of purple, almost Merlot colors. So there it goes. And it has this really great kind of cable-y pattern here. I've actually made 2 of these, and that's where my 14 comes from. I'll show you that one another time. It's in my classroom, so I'll show you that another time. So that is that one. Okay, next. Then I did the Minted hat by Andrea Mowry, and there it is in its glory. And this is in Lily and Pine, and that's Erin of Lily and Pine. And she is amazing and awesome, has really incredible neons and incredible colors. And she too is a wonderfully nice lady. I've always enjoyed talking with her as well. And this is in the pinky color is her Birch Sport, and it's in bubblegum. And then the whitish color, or the lace weight, it's not mohair, folks. It's a Surrey, and it is the Dandelion lace, and it's in her graffiti color. Now, I had a little bit of this left, and I made a pom-pom, and it was incredible. And I put it on, and it then weighted the hat back, and it was too big. I made like the 4-inch pom-pom, and then I went back and read the pattern. And they say to use a different size. So I went and found that size and then made this cute little pom-pom instead. And it's much, much, much better. Now, another one I made, I unfortunately am not going to be able to show you, just in case that person watches this podcast, as it is a Christmas present. But I will tell you that it is the Pearl Soho's classic ribbed hat. And it is a free pattern. And I used a really great hunter green in the Estelle DK. And I will say, I would make it again, but it is a lot of ribbing. So it's not going to be my next cast on tomorrow, let's just say that. Now, the next and last hat that I made is probably, even though I, honest to goodness, love all of them, but this was the one that I was most excited to make and waited for Toquepalooza this year to make it. And that is, let me just get the back right here, folks. Sorry. Here we go. Oh, I'm so excited. And this is the Christmas Cracker Hat by Faye Kennington, who is also known as Yuki Knits. Oh my goodness. Look at that. It's awesome. And it is in, again, Estelle double knit. I really like this yarn for color work. I made a hat for Nate last year in it, and I really liked how this defined the stitches were on it. And I used ecru, which is that cream color. I used leapfrog, which is the green. That actually was a change. The hunter green I told you about just a moment ago was supposed to be in it, but then you couldn't see the holly leaves, so I had to change it. Navy, and then the red is the Merlot color. That's how it's labeled anyway. Okay, here we go. The moment of truth. Well, I already know what it looks like, and I love it to pieces, so. So there we go. We have got our Christmas cracker hat on. I'm really hoping that I will be able to wear it every day the last week of school, because how much more festive can you get than this? So that is, as I said, the Christmas cracker hat, and that was a really, really fun knit. Though again, I was really poor at reading and ended up having to do this top section again, because I didn't read one of the decrease parts correctly. And so I ended up with this tube instead of this beautiful tapered crown like it was supposed to. Good reading, Jen. So what can you do? It was a mistake, and I ended up having to unpick it to, I don't know, but I had to take it back quite a ways and then just knit it again. But you know what? That was okay. It didn't bother me so much, but that's mistakes. Misadventures. Welcome to it. There's been quite a few in this round, hasn't there? I don't know what that's the sign of. Too many things on the go. Not focusing, multitasking instead of unitasking. What can you do? Well, now I am going to share with you just a work in progress. One of the things that I've been working on since Toquepalooza has ended is a little sweater that I am going to gift my daughter for Christmas. It is the Bean and Olive sweater by Andrea Mowry. And when it came out and I saw those little mischievous smiles on those little cute models, I thought to myself, my daughter has a smile like that. She needs that sweater. And so off to the store I trotted, and I again found some, guess what? Estelle DK. or Estelle, yeah, the Estelle double knit for this. And I picked lavender and aubergine. So like eggplant, basically. Eggplanty color, because her favorite colors are purple. Sorry, just trying to get it. I am working on, oh, fiddlesticks, I've just dropped a stitch. Hold on. That's just what I need. Hold on. There we go. Okay, crisis averted. Man down is down no longer. So this here is the little sweater. I have found that I am a bit of a tight colorwork knitter. So I have knit the colorwork in the US 7 and then was able to get gauge using the needles suggested. So US 4 for the ribbing and then US 6 for the body. So I just changed that. Even though she's 7, I decided to go to the 8 to 10 size so she could get a little bit more use out of it. And when I'm done, I will block it normally. And if I need to re-block the color work, I will do that. Like when I blocked this color work, I used my sewing ham, which is a little wonderful tool so that people can sew or iron or press curves on their sewing. So I used that. I put that because that's a great shape for the hat. And then just did the wet cloth and did a steam block for that. So if I have to with this one to get the color work just a little bit more even once I block it, I will do that. But I'm just on the ribbing, and then I've got to do some little sleeves, which also has a little lovely color work detail on it. And that's that. And then I'm done. And that's kind of really what I've been just working on right now. And that is housed in my narwhal bag by the wonderful, wonderful, let's see if I can show you well, that little crafty fox. I have a couple of these bags. They were recommended to me a few years ago. And I have loved them. I own a few of them, and they really are. They're well-made bags. They tote around. I tote around this with me to places, and it holds up really, really well. So that's what I'm working on right now, and that's kind of it for me. That's all I've kind of have on the go. Which, as I'm looking at it now, going, wow, that's quite a bit actually, considering. When I come home in the evenings, I don't want to do much of it, but that's okay. Little bits every time. Sometimes it's just really nice to work on cutting a quilt for 10 minutes or knitting around for a couple of rounds just to calm you down after a day or to kind of regroup you. So I'm busy that way. Before signing off, I want to thank you so much for spending the time with me today. And I look forward to our next adventure. And in the meantime, I hope you find joy in the journey. Bye for now.